Greetings. I hope everyone is doing very well. I just finished the 6th week of my pilgrimage here in the Holy Land, and a lot happened during this week. I'm still here in Bethlehem, so this was my week in Bethlehem and also in a few other areas here in the West Bank, like the Palestinian area here. So yeah, I've got a lot of things written down that happened. If you're watching the content that I'm posting in real time, I haven't started posting in Bethlehem yet, but I'm going to. There's a lot of things that I got from my time here in Bethlehem. It really was a blessing. It was a huge blessing to be here. I think it's going to take me like a lifetime even just to process all the blessings I have received on this journey. So I think I mentioned in my 5th week video how I saw the Church of the Nativity where Jesus was born, and the church right beside it, the Church of St. Catherine of Alexandria, where the cave of St. Jerome is below there. So I think it was maybe the 3rd day I was here, I went to the Shepherd's Field. And that's the place where the angels appeared to the shepherds and told them about the birth of Jesus, to go and see the child. And then they went and found him. You know, there's many Christmas songs written about that story. So I walked there, which was about a 30-minute walk from the main city of Bethlehem. And Bethlehem is split into, I think, it's split, but there's 3 kind of areas around Bethlehem, Bethlehem being one of them, and then Bet Jala, and then Bet Sahur. I hope I'm pronouncing those correctly. So the Shepherd's Fields, I think, is in Bet Sahur, the other little area near Bethlehem. So I walked there, and I had a wonderful experience when I was there. I stayed for a couple of hours there. So before I get into that, I will just say that I had a really neat kind of experience leading up to being there. That morning before I left, I went to the Church of the Nativity just in the morning to visit the grotto there, and I was waiting in line and I met a beautiful lady there, and we were just talking. We exchanged contact information, and then I found out her name was Gloria. And that was really nice to meet her. And the name Gloria, like, I don't hear that very often. I don't know if I really know any Glorias. So it was really neat to meet her. Then when I arrived at the Shepherd's Field later on that morning, I didn't go with a tour guide. And so I wanted to know where they think the shepherds were when the angels appeared. So I saw a lady standing, and I went up to her and I said, "Oh, do you know where the shepherds would have been?" And she said, "Well, this whole area would have been the field, so they really could have been anywhere." But she said there are caves where possibly the shepherds would have stayed in those caves, so they could have been in that location. It ends up she is a native of Bethlehem, and we had just this really beautiful conversation. She told me what it's like to live there and just the changes she's seen over the years. And when we were leaving, I wasn't going to ask her name, but she said to me, "It was nice to meet you. What's your name?" And I told her, and then she said, "My name is Gloria." And after I left, I kind of just was seeing her, I was overcome by emotion, because I was like, I met 2 Glorias this morning on the day where I visited the place where the angel said Gloria in excelsis Deo. Like, that's, the angel said that. Glory to God in the highest, and peace on earth to men of good will. Like, that's what the angel said to the shepherds. And I met 2 Glorias. Like, I never meet Glorias. And it just was like a neat little God incident, they say, instead of like a coincidence, a God incident. And I thought, just a little God sense of humor and all of that. So anyway, it was really beautiful to visit the Shepherd's Field. It was so special to be there and just to think of what happened. The place is really beautiful. It's really lovely there. So again, I stayed for a couple of hours, and then I prayed. I thought about what occurred. You know, I talked to God about it. And then I started to walk back and I saw a sign that said the Virgin's Well. And I remember seeing that when I was looking up things to do here, but it really wasn't on my list. I didn't put it on my list. So I just made a little stop off there. It was right off the road where I was walking. And I read the research before leading up to it. And I guess this is a spot where they think that Mary and Joseph with the baby Jesus could have stopped when they were fleeing from Bethlehem into Egypt, away from Herod. And there's a story that goes that Mary was thirsty and wanted to drink, and no one would get her a drink. So she prayed and the water like rose up and she could drink from the water. So a little miracle. That's the story from there. And unfortunately, it was closed when I arrived. A lot of times here, like during lunch hours, things are closed, but at least I got to pray outside, of being there. So that was the Shepherd's Field. Another interesting thing that I learned that was here from one of the ladies staying in the hostel here is the Cave of St. Nicholas. There's a church built over it, St. Nicholas's Church. And St. Nicholas, who sometimes people associate with Santa Claus, he came on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, and he stayed in Bethlehem for I think a few years, 3 or 4 years. So they have a church built over the cave where apparently he stayed in. So again, that was in Bet Jala, the other part of the 3 areas around here. So I walked there, again, I think it was 30 minutes, and I was very moved being there. It was really neat to me because, St. Nicholas is associated with Santa and Christmas and being in Bethlehem. So I thought that was really like a cool connection. But even just being in the cave that St. Nicholas was in was a really neat experience. I walked to see the wall. They have a wall here that separates Israel from Palestine, and I went. A very moving experience seeing the wall, seeing the images that people have drawn on the wall. And there's an image, an icon of Mary, and I tried to find that icon, but I wasn't able to. So I think I know where it is. So hopefully on my way out of Bethlehem, I'll be able to locate that. While here, again, another miracle of God. When I was in Jerusalem, I really wanted to go to Jacob's Well, where Jesus came and saw the Samaritan woman. He didn't appear. He chatted with the Samaritan woman at the well. And I tried in Jerusalem, I tried to get there, and I just couldn't. I wasn't able to arrange it. But then when I came to stay at the hostel I'm in here right now in Bethlehem, the sons of the people that own the hostel, they're tour guides. So I was able to go on 2 trips, this trip being one of them, with the sons here. If you want their information, let me know. They're amazing. They're Christian Palestinians. I had the best tours with them. Another grace of God. I didn't expect this to happen. And it was just so amazing. Like God arranged it. And it was funny, a girl in Jerusalem, she said to me, if you're meant to get to Nablus, you'll get there. That's where Jacob's Well is. And she's like, and it arranged itself. It all worked out. I was able to go. So I went with a couple other women that were staying here at the hostel. So Jacob's Well was built in a land that I think Jacob purchased back in the Old Testament and lived there for a bit. So the well is thousands of years old, and they say it's absolutely authentic, that they couldn't move the well. This was the well that Jesus visited the Samaritan woman at. And Nablus, where it's kind of north in the West Bank, if you look on a map, that was originally the town of Shechem, kind of in the Samarian district. So, the stories in John chapter 4, if you want to read about that, beautiful, beautiful story. So it was really, really special to be there. And even just to see the town of Nablus. They're famous for their soap. So we visited a soap factory. We visited a spice shop. We got there and the people were kind enough to let us in to see the well because we were visiting again during lunch hours, but it was such a blessing being there. I was just so happy to be able to make it to Jacob's Well. It was something that I really, really wanted to do. And I'm thankful to God that he allowed that to work out. On our way back from Nablus, as we drove back down, we drove on, I think it's Highway 60, and that highway here is called the Highway of the Patriarchs because it's believed that Abraham entered kind of from wherever he was before. I forget, before he came into like the Israel area. He entered near Nablus and then he traveled down to Hebron. So that highway is the Highway of the Patriarchs, which I guess Abraham, Isaac, Jacob would have traveled on. So different things that we passed I was listening, the tour guide was saying as we drove along, we passed Bethel, where Jacob had the vision of the ladder and the angels of God like descending and descending upon the ladder. It's probably somewhere in Genesis if you want to read it, Jacob's vision of his ladder. Then we passed Shiloh, where, if you remember the prophet Samuel, his mother prayed in Shiloh because that's where the Ark of the Covenant was before it got moved to Jerusalem, like the Holy of Holies. So she prayed for a son, and then she was able to conceive Samuel. And there's that famous story in the Bible where Samuel was brought to the temple when he was a child, and he heard God calling him, and he went to Eli the priest. He's like, who's calling me? You know, and he discovered that it was God calling him. So that all happened in Shiloh. So we were passing by that area. We passed by the place, I think it was called Anatot, maybe, and Aneta, maybe that's what it's called now. I'm not sure, but that's where Jeremiah the prophet, who wrote one of the books of the Bible, he lived there. And then while we were in Nablus, we were able to see two mountains, Mount Abel and Mount Gerizim. And I'm not sure what happened on Mount Abel, but from what I understand, like the Israelites settled in that area when they came into the promised land. And the Samaritan people, that was their like holy mountain. I think they might have even had like a temple there. And that maybe it was destroyed. But when Jesus was talking to the Samaritan woman, she said, well, we worship God on Mount Gerizim. So I was able to see Mount Gerizim and Mount Abel. So that was neat. So yeah, just so special to be able to be driving through this land that all these amazing Bible stories happened in it. So we went, the next trip that I took with the tour guide here, we went to Hebron, and Hebron is where Abraham lived. Again, I think it's in Genesis, you read he set up his tents near the oaks of Mamre, and that's in Hebron, and that's where his name was changed. It was originally Abram, and then God changed it to Abraham, and he promised him a multitude of nations. And the three visitors came to see Abraham to let him know that he was going to have a son in his old age. This all took place in Hebron, and I guess David ruled as king from Hebron before he went to Jerusalem just for a bit. So Hebron was a really special spot, like kind of where Abraham kind of put down his roots a bit. So it was a beautiful city. So many craftsmanship was occurring there. They were making glass, they were making pottery, ceramics, sand creations, like art. Beautiful experience being in Hebron. I learned so much. And my goal of going to there is I wanted to see the tomb of the patriarchs. And that's where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are all buried, and their wives, Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah. And then some believe also Joseph's tomb is there as well. So it was really, really amazing to see the tomb of the patriarchs there. It made the Bible like just come so alive to me. Like, yeah, it was very, very moving experience being there. Yeah, so I loved it. That was my goal, was accomplished. I felt closer to them than I had before. And then also I got the experience of visiting these, like seeing the culture of the people, which was also a huge blessing to be able to do that. We went to, so back to Bethlehem. Those were like my two little trips that I took, still in the West Bank, because Bethlehem is actually in the West Bank as well, not in the Israel side. So here, right out my window, actually, right over there is a monastery up on a hill. And it's a Carmelite monastery here in Bethlehem where the sisters pray, they live and pray. And there's also like one, I think, up in Nazareth too. And they were founded by a girl, a Palestinian girl. They call her the Little Arab. I think she was from kind of Galilee, the Galilee area. And then she went off to join a community maybe in France, but then she ended up coming back to this area. And she's a saint now. So I forget her name. It's maybe Sister Miriam, the Little Arab, like also called the Lily of Palestine. If you want to look her up, she's pretty amazing. She had some amazing supernatural experiences with God. I had heard about her before, but I didn't really know that she was here. Like, this is where she settled, and her tomb is here. So we were able to go to Mass at the monastery there in the morning and just see like some of her relics. So that was a really special experience. Okay, so I guess that comes to the end. I kind of spoke a little bit fast. I thought this was gonna go on like really long, but it's not really long. It just feels like so much has happened. It's been a blessing here at the hostel I've been at because I've been able to be mostly by myself. So that's been really nice. I've been actually getting some extra rest being here. And I've had some extra time for prayer and things. So that's been lovely. And so coming here, originally my goal of my pilgrimage was to visit all the holy sites. And I didn't really think much about meeting other people or getting involved in the culture. I know that does happen, but I guess I didn't really think about that happening. But that's been a huge part of my experience here. And I feel like it's like, because Jesus, said, whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, you do to me. So when we encounter others and we're kind to others, like Jesus feels it somehow. It's done to him somehow. So I think it's like the Lord's teaching me, yeah, you come to see these holy places, but you're going to meet me in others and in the people and in the culture, which I know that too, but it's been really, really apparent. And I have grown to love the people here, I loved the people when I visited Israel, and now being in Palestine, I love the people here. They've just been so kind, so welcoming, so friendly. Staying at the hostel here, again, if you want the name of the hostel I'm staying at, just let me know. It's run by a Christian Palestinian family, and they just are so welcoming. It's really given me just a beautiful place to stay. So it's given me just more of a sense of the people and their lives here and how they feel and how they think. And I think I mentioned this in the last video too, like there's a young lady volunteering here at the hostel, and we've just become like really good friends. And we went out to some events together and just different things. So again, it's like God has really been blessing me. Obviously, he blesses us all the time. But just really blessing me with all these encounters. And it's amazing to me too. I was thinking about how, because I'm leaving here tomorrow actually and traveling to Nazareth. And when I planned my pilgrimage, I always ask the Holy Spirit, like, where should I go? Can you help me direct everything? So I try to figure it out logically, but then also leave room for the Holy Spirit. And things kind of got moved around a bit as I was here. But it ends up like I started off kind of in Jerusalem, and it helped me get settled, get used to the place, see some amazing things there. But then now I'm kind of following the life of Jesus on my pilgrimage. I'm in Bethlehem now, where Jesus was born. I'm going to Nazareth next, where he grew up and spent most of the years of his life. Then I'm heading over to the Sea of Galilee area, Capernaum, and that's where his ministry began. He did a lot of work of his ministry there. Then I end off in Jerusalem, where he died. So that's totally God who arranged that. I did my best, I think, just logically. Like, I wasn't thinking about following the life of Christ. I should have maybe been, but I wasn't. And it just was really neat to me that I just thought of that maybe last week, that how I am on this pilgrimage. So yeah, that kind of sums up my 6th week of my pilgrimage. Thank you so much for following along. I am really happy to be able to share this. It's such a blessing, and I am praying for everyone watching all my videos. You are with me in my heart. Take care. God bless. Bye.